Welcome to the Virtual SIM demonstration. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to show an experience where the customer has ordered the Virtual SIM service, downloaded the app, now wants to set their primary line for sending calls and give their other lines nicknames. They can do this by selecting the Virtual SIM app and simply clicking on the line they want to set as their primary line for sending calls. Then, to create nicknames, they simply choose the Settings button for each one of the lines and create nicknames. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to call our physical line physical and our two virtual lines virtual line 1 and virtual line 2. Customers can use these nicknames to denote between lines such as business and personal, or a temporary line that they might use instead of having to give out their true number. This first user experience shows the Virtual SIM customer receiving a call from a contact on their physical line, which here is 469-200-9611. You can see when the non-Virtual SIM customer calls the Virtual SIM customer who's on the right, they will see on their screen that they're being called on their physical line as opposed to either of their virtual lines. And this user experience shows the Virtual SIM customer returning a call to a contact using their call log. When the Virtual SIM customer goes into his call log, he can simply click on the name of the customer and he can see that he's calling his contact back on his physical line. In this user experience, we'll see a Virtual SIM customer receiving a call from someone who's not in their contact list to their second line, their virtual line 1. You can see the customer on the left is calling our Virtual SIM customer on their second line, their first virtual line. Then if you look at the screen on the Virtual SIM customer's phone on the right, you'll see a *2 denoted to the right of the phone number, indicating to the customer they've called him on their second line. Then, the Virtual SIM customer can place a call back to the person who's not in their contact list using their virtual line. This experience shows that no line selection is required when returning a call from the call logs. The Virtual SIM customer can see the *2 on the right side of the number, showing that they returned the call on their virtual line. And note, the CLI displayed is that of the virtual line. This experience shows a Virtual SIM customer receiving a call on their virtual line, but from someone who's in their contact list. In this case, the Virtual SIM customer will see the contact name as well as the nickname from their virtual line. You can see the customer on the left is calling our Virtual SIM customer on their virtual line. Then, if you look at the Virtual SIM customer's phone on the right, you'll see they see the contact name as well as the nickname they gave their virtual line. And in this user experience, we see the Virtual SIM customer returning the call from the contact using their call logs. You can see from the Virtual SIM's call logs he's returning the call on the virtual line. And if you look on the phone on the left, you'll see the CLI presented is that of the virtual line. This user experience shows a Virtual SIM customer receiving and sending text from their physical line. They can do this from their normal message log. They don't have to go into the app, and they don't have to keep separate text message logs for each line. Everything can be completed using their traditional message log. You can see the customer on the left is sending a text to our Virtual SIM customer on the right using their physical line. If you look at the face of the Virtual SIM customer's phone, you'll see that they just received a text from a contact on their physical line. The Virtual SIM customer sends the text from their physical line, and you can see it's received from the physical line. This experience now shows the Virtual SIM customer receiving and sending a text to a person who is not a contact using their virtual line 2. You can see the customer on the left enters in the virtual SIM customer's second virtual line, our virtual line 2, and sends a message. Notice that they are texting our virtual SIM customer's second virtual line. Then if you look at the virtual SIM customer's phone, you will see that they get a text message alert showing that they've received a text on their second virtual line. Then our virtual SIM customer simply goes into its normal text message logs and returns the call on the second virtual line. The virtual SIM customer returns the text using his second virtual line. And you can see from the phone on the left, it's received from the second virtual line. This user experience shows how a virtual SIM customer uses the virtual SIM app to select a forward to line to forward calls to another number from one of its virtual lines, in this case, virtual line 2. The virtual SIM customer goes into the virtual SIM app, selects the number that it would like to forward calls for, then types in the number that they want calls for this virtual line forwarded to, and then clicks Save. And the forward to line is displayed. In this experience, the virtual SIM customer receives a call on their physical line, then receives a call on their third line, or what we've named virtual line 2. They place the physical line on hold, answer the call on virtual line 2, then switch back to the physical line, and finally create a conference call with both of the calls. The virtual SIM customer is receiving a call on their physical line, which they answer. Then you can see a call comes in on their second virtual line, which they answer and place the physical line on hold. Then they're able to switch back to the physical line, and finally they're able to conference in the virtual line 2, merging both of the calls. This next experience shows a virtual SIM customer who can change the line they're calling from on the dialer using the Quick Switch widget. Virtual SIM customers who want to originate calls to a contact without a line designator or select a default line to use when they are using their dialer can use the Quick Switch widget to let them quickly select the default line they wish to use to send the call. This user experience will show a virtual SIM customer who's using an Android phone receiving a text message from a contact to their physical line, and then receiving a text message from a contact to their virtual line 2. Here you can see the non-virtual SIM customer on the left types in the physical number of the virtual SIM customer and begins composing a text message. When they send this text message to our virtual SIM customer, on the right, you'll see it will be sent to the virtual SIM customer's physical line. Notice the virtual SIM customer on the right receives a text alert. When they look at the text alert, they'll see that they've received a text message to their physical line. Now look back to the screen on the left of the non-virtual SIM customer who's now composing a text message to the virtual SIM customer's virtual line 2. This line separation denotation is available to the virtual SIM customer because they are using an Android phone. Now if you'll notice on the virtual SIM customer's phone on the right, they'll receive a text message alert in the top left-hand corner of their screen. And once they check that text message alert, one can see that this text message has been delivered to their virtual line 2 and not their physical line. This next user experience will show a virtual SIM customer receiving a voicemail from a person who is not in their contacts on their virtual line 2. Here you can see the non-virtual SIM customer on the left is dialing the number of the virtual SIM customer's virtual line 2. And if you notice on the virtual SIM customer's phone on the right, the call is being received on their virtual line 2, which here is denoted by the *3 on the right of the number. Once they've denied the call, the non-virtual SIM customer on the left will be prompted to leave a voicemail. Once they've finished recording their voicemail and they've ended the call, the virtual SIM customer, because they have a smartphone, will be able to see through their visual voicemail that the voicemail was left on their virtual line 2. Again, this is denoted by the *3 to the right of the number. This next user experience will show a virtual SIM customer receiving voicemail messages from a contact. The first voicemail message to their physical line and the second voicemail message to their virtual line 2. Notice the screen of the non-virtual SIM customer on the left. They're calling the virtual SIM customer on the right on their physical line. You can see that from the screen of the virtual SIM customer. When they deny the call, the non-virtual SIM customer is prompted to leave a voicemail. Once they're finished recording their voicemail and end the call, we'll be able to see on the virtual SIM customer's phone on the right that the voicemail has been left on the virtual SIM customer's physical line. Now the non-virtual SIM customer is going to call the virtual SIM customer on their virtual line 2. They place the call to the virtual SIM customer and will be able to see from the virtual SIM customer's phone that they're being called on their virtual line 2. When they deny the call, the non-virtual SIM customer will be prompted to leave a voicemail. Once they've finished recording their voicemail message and have ended the call, the virtual SIM customer will be able to see from their visual voicemail that they've received a voicemail message on their virtual line 2. This user experience will show a virtual SIM customer who's using the time of day option to set specific days and times that calls, texts, and data are not allowed for one of their virtual lines. They'll simply go into the virtual SIM mobile app and they'll choose the settings options on the line they wish to set time of day restrictions for. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to label this line our work line, and we're going to set workday and weekend restrictions for calls, texts, and data. The customer turns on the Do Not Disturb options and can block calls, send calls to voicemail, or forward to another number. They can block calls every day or set weekday and weekend restrictions. Instead of selecting all day long for weekdays, they've selected to block calls, texts, and data between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. on weekdays for this particular line. However, they would like to block calls, texts, and data all day long on weekends and select this option. And save, and then you can visibly see that there are time of day restrictions for this particular line. And this concludes our virtual SIM demonstration. Thank you.